This is a presentation and demonstration of a tool called EcoBuilder. It was developed by Annegret Eggers from the University of Goettingen, a partner in the EU project PERICLES. The EcoBuilder is a tool which simplifies the creation of a digital ecosystem model. It has a GUI and Java API, and it can output OWL-XML or Turtle. It can be used by scenario experts without having to write an ontology or Java code, and it facilitates integration into workflows. It has been released on GitHub at github.com/pericles-project/ecobuilder. Though in principle a standalone tool, the EcoBuilder was developed within the context of the Pericles project as a building block in support of providing the overall research objective. The purpose of the EcoBuilder is to create OWL ontologies based on the concept of digital ecosystem models. To understand the distinct purpose of the EcoBuilder in comparison to other tools such as Protégé for constructing domain models and knowledge-based applications with ontologies, we need to introduce the concept of the digital ecosystem and the reason for modeling such ecosystems. So, what is a digital ecosystem? The notion of ecosystem was borrowed from the concept of an ecological ecosystem, which includes all of the living things, plants, animals and organisms in a given area, interacting with each other and also with their non-living environments, such as weather, earth, sun, soil, climate and atmosphere. An important thing to remember is that the understanding of what constitutes a given ecosystem is driven by the purpose of the analysis and a particular focal point. You can look at a specific plant or object and look at the environment, a given area, it lives in to analyze why it can only live in these environments, such as a desert habitat, and not in others, like a rainforest. Or you can look at a whole system, like planet Earth itself. The same notion can be applied to digital ecosystems. These include all things, we call them entities, in a given area, interacting with each other and also with the non-digital environments, such as hardware, human beings, and legal rules. The basic entities are digital objects, policies, processes, technical services, and user communities. They are interdependent. As we know, digital technology is constantly evolving. This implies that digital environments are also dynamic and changing, which is likely to impede the access to the digital objects within a given ecosystem. As with the ecological ecosystem, the question of the given area depends on what you want to analyze and what your focal point is. Whether it is a digital object, such as a file, an artwork, or a digital representation of a certain computer, or a system, such as an archive, or an organization, or a management system. This is an example of a digital ecosystem. A scientist wants to perform an experiment with the aim of writing a scientific publication based on the results. Although at first glance it does not appear digital, it represents a digital ecosystem and can be composed into the main entities listed earlier. Entities are a high-level category, like a species in biology. They are generic on purpose so that we can build models of the ecosystem with them. The scenario imports instances that are the real-life equivalents to the abstract entity classes. Here we can see that the data is the instance of digital objects. The experiment is subject to conditions which are an instance of policies. A certain process takes place to perform the experiment, an instance of processes. The sensors, computers, etc. necessary for performing this experiment are instances of the entity technical services. And the scientist is part of a user community. Why do we model an ecosystem? Because they are complex. Why do we need models? Because of the complexity of digital ecosystems. It is hard to maintain them, describe them, introduce changes, to determine the impact of change, to identify and resolve problems, and to trace provenance. So why do we use models? If we want to analyze an ecosystem, we need an abstract representation of the knowledge we have about the ecosystem, about all things that live in it and the relations between them. The 5 basic entities of digital ecosystems that we defined allow us to describe this ecosystem in a model, which at this point is still very abstract. From this abstract level, You can then break it down in models, reflecting different scenarios. While the entity is the abstract concept, like a species, we can then attribute a specific instance, like we have shown in the example with the scientist. What do we use models for? In recent decades, everyone has experienced how quickly technology becomes obsolete. Everyone remembers either cassette tapes or VHS tapes and CD-ROM, and we therefore know that DVD will not last. Now USB is possibly the next best thing, but it won't be long before it too is superseded. We have learned that technology is quickly obsolete, but we have not yet grown familiar to the full scope of the impact. Should we copy cassettes onto CD, or buy new CDs? Or shall we throw away all CD-ROMs just because we bought a new computer? If we want to stop being victims of change, thereby losing our cherished treasures held on these obsolete media, we need to be better prepared and to be proactive, not reactive. Let us look at some types of change that are likely to occur within digital ecosystems. The most obvious change is creation, deletion, and change of entities. There can be changes in larger social or cultural contexts. User communities can grow and merge. User expectations, knowledge, and background knowledge are constantly changing. New policies, such as laws or institution policy, can be introduced, which results in new processes. And technical infrastructure and dependencies change. There are changes that we have no influence on, which we refer to as unplanned changes, and changes that we need to make to react to new circumstances, so-called planned changes. The digital ecosystem model is built to express, anticipate, and mitigate changes. A model of an ecosystem is like a mirror image of the real ecosystem. You can introduce a change and test what-if scenarios. You can thus understand the impact a planned change would have without having actually touched your ecosystem. It can also be used to see the impact of an unplanned change. You might immediately see the effect of one change, like an obsolescence, to which you need to react. But the external change might have other implications that are not immediately visible, but which you should be aware of in order to decide on the best reaction. What are the benefits of modelling? Digital ecosystems are very complex, and rarely one single person understands all entities and the dependencies involved at any given time. To create models is therefore in the first instance time-intensive, but once created, they can lead to a lot of time-effective support, because you can always add and amend the model. Every change can impact the model by creating new dependencies, replacing old ones, etc. The history of the models reflecting the different phases of an ecosystem can also be very helpful in reconstructing problems and finding alternative solutions. To describe models, you need ontologies which provide you with the generic terms for the entities and their relationships. The interesting thing about ontologies is that they are the connection between the human and the machine, as both understand them. For humans, they are often expressed in visual forms, for machines in computer-readable formats. By providing abstract and generic entities and relations to express dependencies in a meaningful way, and then allowing to replace the generic entities with instances to describe real-life scenarios, makes ontologies perfect to represent complex landscapes and environments. Clearly, you can take an eagle-eye view or dive deep into a more focused view. For the digital ecosystem model, we examined all the parts that would cover, at a high level, all the possibilities offered by entities and their generic sub-entities. For this, we defined three basic submodel areas in addition to the core model: processes, infrastructure, and policies. To use the digital ecosystem model for scenarios, we need to be able to analyze the models, and to do this, we describe the analysis itself in a fifth model. So back now to the EcoBuilder tool. This is the reason why we have created EcoBuilder. It aids in creation of the digital ecosystem model ontology. It is designed for people who want to model their ecosystem and translate it so a computer will be able to understand it, without them having to learn an ontology language or a programming language. It's a perfect instrument to bridge the gap between the person with the knowledge of an ecosystem, such as a digital archive, and a person developing tools for automated processes to run on computers, such as those that would analyze the impact of change in a test environment. We will now demonstrate how the tool works. Now that we are done with the theoretical part of the digital ecosystem model, which I'll refer to as the DEM from now on, let's play with the EcoBuilder. You can download the EcoBuilder on GitHub from the URL github.com/pericles-project/ecobuilder. On the start page, you will find the description and the source code. We need to click on Releases to download the executable file. The latest version is always on top. Just download the jar file, click on the name, and the download starts. Now go to the Download folder on your computer and double-click on the jar file to start the tool. This is what the EcoBuilder interface looks like. On the left pane, you will find the different submodels of DEM: the core model, the policy model, the process model, infrastructure, analysis, the state preservation model, and the current scenario model. Now we are ready to create a model for a scenario. We want to model a scenario in which an artist produces a video which is then stored on a repository belonging to a museum. The museum puts the video on display with a video player. Note that this is a very simplified model which does not model every possible detail. Before we start using the tool, we need to think what and who is involved in this scenario as the main actors. We have the artist, the video file, the repository, the museum, and the video player. These are what we call instances. Now we need to match these real instances to abstract entities of the DEM. Let's start with the artist. The matching entity is human agent. Now the video file. This corresponds to digital object. Then we match the repository, which we consider a technical service. In the DEM, the museum corresponds to user community. Last, we have the video player. The matching entity is hardware agent. Now we need the main actions that are carried out: video production and video playback. In the DEM, the matching entity for both actions is process. Let's go back to the EcoBuilder. First, we need to add all entities. We follow the graphical representation of the DEM. We need to add a human agent. The human agent is part of the submodel process, so we click DEM process model on the left. Choose the human agent entity from the list on the right. A new box appears on the left. It means that we have added the template to the model, but it does not have an instance yet. To add a new instance, click on New Entity below Human Agent. Now, click on the new human agent name to configure the entity. Change the name from New Human Agent to Artist and add version number 1.0 and a meaningful description. For example, the artist which creates the video for the museum. Click on Save Changes to apply. In the left tree, you will find that Human Agent has changed to Artist. Next, we need to add the video production process. Go to the core model. Remember that the process entity is part of the core model, and only specific details of processes are in the process model. Click on the process template, and on the left, click on New Entity. Click on New Process, enter Video Production as process name, add version 1.0 and description, and click on Save Changes. On the left, you will see that it has changed name. Keep on doing this with all entities. To recap, as you have seen, you need to click on the corresponding submodel, choose the desired entity template, go to the left tree, and click on New Entity to add entities. If you click on the newly created entity, you can configure the details. You will see on the left the result of all edited entities, but now we need to define the relations between the entities. In order to express meaning or relations, ontologies use triples. A triple consists of a subject, a predicate and an object. Like in the examples shown here, Bob is a friend of Alice, and the Mona Lisa was created by Leonardo da Vinci. Our first step has been to identify who and what is involved in the scenario and match these instances to DEM entities. Now we need to build triples by thinking about how these instances are related to each other to actually describe the full scenario. An artist creates a video which is being stored in a museum repository with the purpose of exhibiting it. Let's now add the relations between entities in the EcoBuilder. If we start with the artist, what would be the relation to which other instance? Obviously, the artist and the video are related. Click on the artist entry on the left. Now click on the Select a Relation drop-down and choose Executes from the drop-down list, as it is the most fitting to describe creates. Below this relation, you will find a description of the chosen relation. Now click on Choose either an existing entity as target and pick Video Production as target. Click Add Relation to confirm the new relation. On the left tree, you will find the new relation in blue. Now we continue with the Video Production Process entity. We click on the entity on the left tree. Choose the relation Has Output and add the video file as the relation target, and click Add Relation. So now we have described the fact that an artist creates a video in DEM terms as artist executes video production that has output video file. The next step in the history is handing over the video to the museum. Click on the video file entity on the left. Use Stored On as the relation. Pick Repository as the target and click Add Relation. Pick the repository entity on the left. Use the Owned by Community relation. Choose Museum as the target and click Add Relation. And now we need to express the ecosystem that allows playing the video. The last relation to add is related to the video playback process. Let us start with the video file. The relation between the video playback and video file is input. Click on the video playback entity on the left. Choose Has Input as relation. Use video file as related entity and click Add Relation. The video playback entity has a second relation. It manages the video player. So now choose Manages as relation and pick Video Player as target and click on Add Relation. Now we are done for this scenario. On the left you will find all the entities and relations. With File, Generate Your Scenario Model, we can save the model as an ontology. We do this now and pick a folder to save it. As the tool outputs several files, we only have to choose a folder for the output. Now, let's use the File System Explorer to have a look at the folder. Within the output folder, you will see a DEM folder with a subfolder called Scenarios and OWL and Turtle folders. The OWL folder contains an RDF XML representation and the Turtle folder the Turtle representation. Let's have a look at the files. If we open the Turtle file with a text editor, you will see the different entities. For example, the video player as hardware agent and the different relations. For example, that the museum is a user community and it owns the repository. If we have a look at the OWL file from the OWL folder, we will see that it is an XML file. You can choose the format depending on your needs for further processing. Currently, the EcoBuilder does not have the option for visualization, but that could be easily implemented. However, the RDF or Turtle output could be imported into Protégé, where a visual version could be created. You can find further documentation on how to use the tool on the GitHub page. For other Pericles tools, please visit preserveware.com. Thank you for watching this screencast.